Yeah, actually, it was the Miss Saigon casting controversy that got me interested. And at first, I was really interested in the double standard for casting Asian male and Asian female roles. But I also was struck by the defense that so many people gave for casting Jonathan Pryce as the engineer, that this was non-traditional casting. It was colorblind casting. And isn't that what we all want, that any actor should play any role? But I wasn't able to pursue that all at the time because I was finishing what was then my dissertation. Yeah. And when I returned to it, I found that I wanted to look at it from a historical perspective. And so I went back to when this really started with the work during the Civil Rights era. And I really started looking at the productions of the New York Shakespeare Festival. And fortunately, they're very well archived. So I'd say that's where I really started with the foundation for the book. Because I think now things have changed so much in American society and in theater, and that's been wonderful. But I think it was so surprising to see that at the origins, it was never talked about in terms of colorblindness, but it was integration of theater companies, just like any other social cultural institution. And that's what I think maybe has dropped out of the discourse, but really is so powerful and so important that theater was part of this social movement, maybe one of the most important ones of the 20th century. One thing that almost every example confirmed is how complicated a process it is to, let's say, create racial or ethnic representations, but then also to use them and then alter them through casting practices, through performances. And it's as much what's happening socially, historically, politically, but also the conventions of theater, and that they interact completely, and that each case is almost a separate or unique one. And in some ways, what was most surprising was, I think, the reaction to many of the anti-realistic plays or the Broadway musicals with their element of fantasy, that people were almost more emotional about changing what they perceived as a traditional approach to casting those pieces. So what happened with classical tragedy, comedy, or modern drama was more predictable in a way. To me, though, that was really taking a certain model of theater that was very safe, very middle class. And also 20th century maybe, because if you thought in the 19th century, for instance, and I present some examples of that, if you were a black actor, any suggestion of any kind of interracial romance would be extremely dangerous. And sometimes even a white actor playing a black character.
And well into the 20th century.
Yeah. And so that was in a way to, maybe play on that. It seems that the origins of so much of what is now common practice are forgotten. And it's wonderful that, actors can think about it as in terms of individual opportunities, or that directors and designers are thinking about different productions. But it's part of a larger picture. So I hope, people interested in going into the theater profession will read that. And when I think of who does not have living memory of the Civil Rights era, the 60s, 70s, I used to think, oh, imagine young people, undergraduates and things, but it really now is getting to be people under 50, I think. So it really means a lot to me to receive an award from a group that does represent directors, designers, and actors, as well as scholars and historians. Because my own training is in literary studies, but I think, the cross-pollination has been so rich, and for me, coming from theater, people who actually work with the body and space, I think have a great deal to teach everyone else who's working in other arts and forms of humanities.